If people are suddenly disappearing from your life, this is not coincidence. Someone just walked out, and it felt like the ground disappeared beneath your feet. Maybe they left. Maybe they faded. Maybe they simply stopped showing up. But what if I told you that wasn't random? What if the universe isn't punishing you, it's protecting you? What if every person who disappears is part of a divine redirection toward who you were always meant to become? Stay with me, because near the end of this video, I'll reveal the one unmistakable sign that proves the universe is not taking from you, it's preparing you for a completely new chapter. You will want to hear that. Look around you. Think of someone who used to be in your life, a friend, a lover, a colleague, who is simply gone. You didn't plan for that departure, did you? You didn't wake up one morning and decide to lose them. And yet, here you are, on the other side of a silence that once felt unbearable. That silence, my friend, is not emptiness, it is awakening. The great Napoleon Hill once wrote that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit. Most people read that and nod their heads. But very few stop to ask, what is the benefit hidden in the loss of a person who mattered to you? What is the universe trying to say through their absence? The answer begins the moment you stop treating loss as failure and start treating it as information. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." Notice the word purpose. Not accident. Not chaos. Purpose. Every person who has been removed from your life was either a lesson, a blessing, or both, and the moment of their departure is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your awakening to a deeper one. And here's the part nobody talks about. Most people spend years trying to undo a loss, replaying conversations, wondering what they could have said differently, trying to reverse something the universe already decided was complete. Don't be most people. Pay attention to this, because most people miss it entirely. Before someone leaves your life, your energy already knows something is wrong. You feel it in the pit of your stomach, in the exhaustion that follows certain conversations, in the quiet relief you feel when a particular name doesn't show up on your phone. Your body is a compass, and it has been pointing toward the truth long before your mind was ready to accept it. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And part of that acceptance is acknowledging that not every relationship is built to last forever. Some people enter your life carrying energy that once matched yours, but as you grow, as you evolve, the frequencies diverge. And when two energies no longer resonate, the universe begins the process of natural separation. Not because one person is bad, but because alignment demands honesty. Have you ever held onto a relationship simply out of fear of the void it would leave? Of course you have. We all have. But here's what no one tells you: the void is not the danger. The void is the invitation. It is in that open, uncomfortable space that new purpose, new energy, and new people aligned with who you are becoming begin to find their way to you. You cannot receive what is meant for you while your hands are full of what has already served its purpose. Most people realize this too late. They spend so much energy explaining someone's absence that they never stop to receive the message the absence is sending. Don't explain the loss. Read it. Stop. Right now. Think about one person you've been holding onto out of habit, not love, not growth, not joy. Just habit. What would your life look like if you finally let go? Listen. Not every door that closes is a punishment. Some closed doors are the universe's most profound acts of protection. The person who left your life at the worst possible time? They may have saved you from something you will never fully see. The friendship that dissolved before it could become toxic? The relationship that ended before it destroyed your healing? These are not tragedies. These are divine interventions wearing the costume of heartbreak. Proverbs 4 verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Sometimes you are too invested, too emotionally entangled, to guard your own heart. So the universe guards it for you. It removes what is slowly draining the life from you. It pulls away the hands that were, whether knowingly or not, pulling you backward instead of lifting you forward. This is not cruelty. This is protection at the highest level. Think about the people who have caused you the deepest wounds. Now ask yourself honestly, how long did you already know something was wrong before the final break? Weeks? Months? Years? Your soul knew before your ego was willing to admit it. The transformation that follows loss is not despite the pain, it is because of it. Pain is the universe's loudest language. And if you are willing to listen rather than merely suffer, it will tell you everything you need to know about where you are going next. Imagine a woman, let's call her Sarah. She spent 7 years in a friendship that left her exhausted after every single phone call. Every conversation drained her. But she stayed, because leaving felt like abandonment. One day, the friend pulled away without explanation. Sarah was devastated. 2 years later, she said it was the greatest gift she ever received. She had space, for the first time in years, to hear herself think. That silence became the foundation of the most productive, joyful chapter of her life. The universe did what she couldn't do for herself. Here's a truth that will either liberate you or challenge you, and either way, it is the truth: you attract what you are, not what you want. Alignment is not a buzzword. It is a cosmic law. When you begin to shift, when you start growing, healing, and upgrading your mindset, the people who are aligned with your old self will begin to feel the distance. They won't always understand why. You may not fully understand it yourself. But the shift is real, and it changes everything. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." When you begin living in alignment with that kind of purpose, the superficial relationships fall away like dead leaves in autumn. Not violently. Not dramatically. Naturally. Because alignment is not something you force. It is something you become, and your environment, including the people in it, will rearrange itself accordingly. Have you noticed that the seasons of your greatest growth were also the seasons of your greatest isolation? That is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. The most transformative periods of a human life are almost always accompanied by a reduction in social noise and an increase in solitude and self-reflection. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly surrounded by a crowd. It enters the cocoon alone. Your isolation is not your abandonment. It is your metamorphosis. Here is something the self-help world rarely admits. Alignment sometimes feels like loneliness first. It feels like being misunderstood. It feels like the people who once celebrated you now seem uncomfortable around you. That discomfort? It is the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. It is proof that the shift is real. Write this down if you need to. The people the universe removes are often the ones blocking the path to the person you were always supposed to become. That is not loss. That is direction. Let's talk about detachment, because the word has been deeply misunderstood. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold, indifferent, or emotionally unavailable. Detachment means you release the desperate grip of ego-driven attachment to outcomes, to people, and to versions of the future that may not have been yours to hold in the first place. It is one of the most difficult and most liberating practices available to a human being. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Detachment is the practice of finding that strength, the strength to love without possessing, to connect without clinging, to allow people to exit your life without collapsing into grief. It is not easy. But every time you practice it, you release a little more of the fear that has been quietly running your decisions, your relationships, and your sense of self-worth. When someone leaves your life and your immediate reaction is panic, ask yourself, what does this departure reveal about where you have been placing your security? If your peace depends on the presence of any single person, you have handed them far too much power over your evolution. True healing begins when you understand that you came into this world alone, you will leave it alone, and every person in between is a gift, not a guarantee. Release them with gratitude. Trust the process. And watch what the universe sends to fill the space. Picture this. You're holding a glass of muddy water. Someone offers you clear, clean water. But your hands are full. You cannot receive the new water without first releasing the glass you are holding. That is exactly what the universe is doing when it removes people from your life. It is not taking. It is making room. And the water coming? It is cleaner than anything you have held before. Every single time you upgrade your life, your habits, your mindset, your standards, your faith, something interesting happens. The relationships and environments that were built around the old you begin to feel uncomfortable. Not because you have become arrogant. Not because you think you are better than anyone else. But because growth creates a natural incompatibility with stagnation. You are operating at a new frequency, and not everyone is tuned to receive it. Think of it like this. When a radio station changes its frequency, the listeners who were tuned to the old signal lose the broadcast. They haven't disappeared, they simply aren't receiving what you're now transmitting. This is the upgrade cycle, and it is as natural as seasons changing. The people who are meant to be with you in the next chapter of your life are already tuned to the frequency you are growing into. They are coming. But first, the old signal must go quiet. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That word transformed, that is the whole story. Every time you allow your mind to be renewed, every time you refuse to shrink back to who you used to be out of social comfort or the fear of losing people who can't grow with you, you are living that scripture. You are participating in your own divine upgrade. And yes, it will cost you some relationships. But what it gives you in return is beyond anything those relationships could have provided. And here's what almost no one is willing to say out loud. Some people in your life are not bad people. They are simply old people, old in the sense that they belong to a version of you that no longer exists. Holding on to them is not loyalty. It is self-betrayal. The most loving thing you can do for both of you is to release the relationship gracefully and trust that you each have a path to walk that may no longer run parallel. Some of the people who hurt you the most were also the most important teachers you ever had. The lesson wasn't in their presence. It was in their leaving. Are you still enrolled in the class, or have you graduated? Look, there are seasons in life where everything seems to be falling apart at once: the job, the relationship, the friendships, the plan you had mapped out for your future. And in those moments, the temptation is to conclude that something has gone terribly wrong. That you are cursed. That you are being punished. But what if the opposite is true? What if total redirection is the clearest sign that you are being guided, not abandoned? Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, imprisoned unjustly, and yet, every single painful removal, every betrayal, every door that slammed shut, was quietly building the path to his purpose. Genesis 50 verse 20 captures it perfectly. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Joseph's entire story is a masterclass in understanding that redirection is not the end of your story. It is the shift that makes the ending possible. What has been redirected in your life that, in retrospect, you are now grateful for? Think honestly. The relationship that ended and forced you into yourself. The job that fell through and led you somewhere better. The friend group that dissolved and created the space for deeper, more meaningful connections. Redirection has a track record in your life. You have survived every removal the universe has placed on your path. And every time, something better emerged from the rubble. Do you trust that enough to stop fighting the process? I want you to imagine a man, let's call him Marcus. He had a business partner for 6 years. They built something together. Then, without warning, the partner left, taking half the clients and most of the confidence Marcus had in himself. For 8 months, Marcus described it as the worst period of his life. Then, forced to rebuild alone, he discovered a new direction for his business, one that tripled his revenue in 2 years and connected him with people who became lifelong collaborators. Today, he says, the betrayal was the best business decision I never made. The universe redirected him through a door he would never have chosen himself. Here is something the self-help world often glosses over: healing is not a performance. It is not something you do for an audience. True healing happens in the quiet, in the alone, in the uncomfortable hours when there is no one to distract you from your own thoughts and wounds. And that is exactly why the universe sometimes empties your social life before it fills it back up. You cannot heal a wound while it is still being reopened daily by the wrong presence. Dr. Maya Angelou said, "You alone are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody." But how many of us have used relationships, even toxic, damaging ones, as a way to avoid facing the truth of our own worth? We keep people around not because they build us up but because their presence distracts us from the healing work we are afraid to begin. When the universe removes those distractions, it is not being unkind. It is creating the conditions under which your deepest transformation can finally take root. Healing is the foundation of everything. Every growth you want to achieve, every upgrade in relationships, career, and purpose, all of it rests on the bedrock of genuine emotional healing. You cannot build something lasting on a foundation of unprocessed grief, unexamined wounds, and unacknowledged patterns. So when people leave, rather than rushing to fill the void, consider sitting in it for a while. Ask yourself what it is showing you. Ask what you have been avoiding. The answers that come in that sacred isolation are often the most important truths of your life. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you rush to replace a person who left, jumping immediately into a new friendship, a new relationship, a new social circle, you are choosing distraction over healing. And the wound does not close. It just goes underground, where it quietly shapes every relationship you have from that moment on. The bravest thing you can do after a loss is not to replace it immediately. It is to sit with the space and let it teach you. The universe is not removing people from your life to make you lonely. It is clearing the stage so the right cast can enter. Your next chapter cannot be written by the characters from your last one. Nothing, and I mean nothing, happens to you without purpose. This is not naive optimism. This is the central thesis of every wisdom tradition in human history, from the Bible to Buddhism, from Stoicism to modern quantum physics. There is an intelligence woven into the fabric of existence, and it is working for you even when, especially when, it feels like it is working against you. Every exit from your life serves a purpose that your current perspective may not yet be equipped to fully see. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps and went on to write Man's Search for Meaning, said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." The people who left your life, they changed the situation. And now, the challenge is yours. The challenge is to evolve beyond the identity that required their presence to feel whole. The challenge is to find the purpose in the pain, the direction in the departure, and the evolution in the emptiness. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is the hardest, most sacred work a human being can do. Ask yourself this: who are you becoming because of who left? What strength have you discovered in their absence that their presence was quietly suppressing? What dreams have you allowed yourself to dream again now that you are no longer trying to make yourself small enough to fit into a relationship that was never designed for your evolution? Every exit writes a new chapter. The question is whether you will pick up the pen, or wait for someone else to write your story for you. And remember the open loop I gave you at the beginning? I promised to reveal the one unmistakable sign that the universe is preparing you, not punishing you. Here it is. When the removal of a person creates more peace than panic, even if that peace is quiet, even if it's mixed with grief, that is the universe confirming you already knew it was time. Your soul doesn't grieve what was right for it. It grieves what it was attached to. And there is a profound difference between the two. The great Rumi wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That field is the place beyond blame, beyond the story of who left and why, beyond the ego's need to categorize every departure as betrayal or failure. In that field, you see each relationship for what it truly was: a chapter, a lesson, a gift of timing. And you understand that the greatest act of respect you can give to someone who has exited your life is to release them fully, wish them well genuinely, and use everything they taught you to fuel the next stage of your growth. Your life is not a series of losses. It is a series of redirections. Every person who has walked out has cleared a seat for someone more aligned with who you are becoming. Every painful goodbye is the universe's way of saying, you have outgrown this, and that is not a tragedy, that is the whole point. Your purpose does not require the presence of everyone who once seemed essential. It requires only your willingness to shift, to heal, to evolve, and to trust, even in the silence, even in the loss, that the intelligence guiding this universe has never once lost track of where you are going. Let me leave you with this final image. Picture a tree in late autumn, stripped of every leaf, standing bare against a cold sky. It looks like loss. It looks like death. But underneath the surface, invisible to the eye, the roots are deepening. The tree is not dying. It is preparing. Come spring, it will be fuller, stronger, and more alive than it was before. That tree is you. Every person who has left your life is a leaf that fell so the roots could go deeper. And spring, your spring, is already on its way. So here's what I need you to take away from everything you have just heard. The universe removing people from your life is not a sign that you are broken, cursed, or unworthy of love. It is a sign that you are growing, and growth demands space. It demands honesty. It demands the courage to release what no longer serves your evolution and trust that what is meant for you cannot be stopped by any absence, any loss, or any silence. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Hold on to that. Not as a platitude, but as a promise. The awakening is real. The alignment is possible. The healing is available to you right now, in this moment, in the very pain you thought was your destruction. Look, if this video found you today, it found you for a reason. Not every loss is the end. Sometimes it is the beginning of the most important chapter of your life. Trust the process. Trust the removal. Trust the redirection. And above all, trust yourself. Because the universe does not make mistakes. It only removes people from the lives of those it is preparing. And you, my friend, you are being prepared for something extraordinary. The roots are deepening. Spring is coming. And you are exactly where you are supposed to be.